When I moved into the house, middle house, in 1990, I looked for pictures to put on the wall, and I found several pictures. This is one of them that I placed outside of my bedroom. And this picture, along with the other pictures, sat on my wall for all the time. These were not related. One was a man and a little boy, women working in a field, and then this one in the Last Supper. Nothing was connected as far as they were just different pictures. And it was after everything happened, not giving it much of any thought, about the three houses and how everything started. It was after that, as I sat around and looked in my living room, sitting on my lazy boy, and just looked around the room, looked at the pictures on the wall, and I noticed that all the pictures, the people were looking one way, the man was looking down at the boy as he's showing him something. The women were looking at each other and into the field. The people in the Last Supper, they were looking at the Jesus figure in the picture. And when I got to this one, it was the only one that I looked at that was looking back at me. And I looked again and I noticed that this is the only picture that eyes would follow me around the room as I sat in the house. And as I got close to looking at it and closer to going to Egypt, is when I looked in the background and I saw the three pyramids in the back behind them. And you can see the face of the woman and the man and how they looking. And how with the picture itself coming to life, being that when I did go to Egypt, I went to visit these pyramids that are in their background. It's like as if though I went into the picture with them, the spirit of them. Whether they've sold 1,000 of these, how many they sold to people as posters, this picture came to me as something real. And this was after 6 years of having this on the wall. 6 years that it came to my attention that this was connected. It was 6 years that I looked at it and never thought one thing about them as far as that there was anything else going on as far as the pictures. It was 6 years that I noticed that, looked at it enough to realize they were the only two that were looking back at me, with their eyes would follow me around the room, and they were outside of my door. Just the same as when I was a child, and I said there was two beings that stand by my door, and they were stood like this. The man was taller, the taller one, and then there was a shorter one. I always said it was a man and a woman standing next to each other, just the same way they're standing right now. The woman was on the same side, the shorter one, and I said looked like an X-ray. It's like you take an X-ray and you see bone, and you'll see that it doesn't glow, but you just see them. I never saw their faces, but I knew it was a man and a woman. It just came to me that they were. And when they come to my room and stand at my door, I would be asleep and suddenly wake up in the middle of the night. And whenever I woke up, I always knew before I opened my eyes that they were there. And sometimes I would play as if I was still asleep, pretending under the covers. And then I would just slowly bring the covers back, and there they go. They're standing right there at the door. Just the same way when I put this picture up by my door, it didn't hit me until after it all began in 1996 to 1997 that this was the faces of the people, the two beings that were standing at my door inside of my bedroom that I knew were there before I even opened my eyes. And they were standing there. The only difference was the taller one looked like he had a movie camera, something holding it. But it was the same complexion, the same color, the same looking like an x-ray, like a negative, holding it there, pointing it in my direction. And then that going on from 7 to 13. And then to be in my own house as an adult and then go back and then be reminded of that experience as a child and then look and then see that they fit the same position that they stood in my room at the door at night in the middle of the morning and then see them being the only picture that faced out and looked at me as I looked back at it, at them. And then looking at the eyes, and our eyes are all the same color. So that was enough to tell me that this is them. This is what they look like. This is why I can say again, the mole, the male, the female on the mole. This was in my house, the middle house that represented the middle pyramid, the one that sits on a star-shaped yard, pentagram. Showing the same thing. As you can see the woman's face, and you can see the man's face. How she looks more, and he's got a bit of a smirk, showing that he knew I got it. You can take it or leave it, but this is what I'm showing you. This is why I know how real it is. This is why I know when I saw the picture on the when I saw the picture around Orlando with the gold face, it was easy to connect because of the coloring, because this was all done. This is already laid out. When I went to pick those pictures up and picked this one out, had it framed, and just decided to place it where I placed it at. When I just placed it outside of my door, because it's fit right next to where I had my entertainment center at, and it was just enough space to put this picture right there. And that picture sat there the whole time. And then it wasn't until later that I realized they're the ones that were at my door when I was a child. The two beings. And this is the message they came back to me with. The pyramids were made as a compass in case you should ever get lost. That was the message that I received that morning, that I woke myself up with, from my own voice, hearing it. It's upside down. And then coming to those words. The pyramids were made as a compass in case you should ever get lost. And at that point, I wasn't even looking at this picture. I didn't even go out and see this picture, and it was just there every day. And then here it is after the fact. Then I look back at them, and then it hit me that it was them. Whether or not they sold 1,000 of these things or 100,000, I know what they are. I know what they represent. That's why I can go back to New York, go back and talk about Central Park, talk about the obelisk, because it took me back all the way there. And then you can see the connection between the three obelisks and where I grew up at, Commander Avenue. This was no mistake.